The transmission split the skies of Earth and its colonies. Every comms channel, every orbital relay, every screen in every domed city flickered to the same message. A jagged emblem, red on black, burned into existence, a crest that carried fear across dozens of star systems. The Solaris Dominion had spoken. The image resolved into the visage of Overlord Travak, towering even in holographic projection. His ridged skull and obsidian eyes gleamed like the void itself, his voice carrying a deep vibration that rattled through the bones of every human who heard it. "Humans of soul," he began, contempt dripping with each word. "You are vermin who scuttle in the shadows of true empires. For too long, your fragile world has hidden behind isolation. But no longer. By decree of the Dominion, your species is annexed. Resist, and you will be erased. Submit, and your survival will be permitted." The feed cut to the image of Solaris warships, vast crescent-shaped titans, each bristling with weapons that had reduced entire civilizations to ash. And then it ended. Just silence. In Geneva, inside the unified Earth Command bunker, a dozen world leaders sat frozen, their faces pale in the cold light of the holoscreen. The silence in the war room was broken only by the faint hum of servers and the rhythm of someone's nervous breathing. Finally, a voice cut through. "They didn't even bother to declare war," muttered Minister Adebayo of the African Union. "They've already decided we're finished." Another voice, shaking. "What chance do we have against the Dominion? Their fleets outnumber ours 100 to 1. Their tech is centuries beyond us." Enough. The word was sharp, hard, and final. Admiral Helena Voss stepped into the light. Her presence filled the room, not through force of rank, though she wore her dark blue uniform with the authority of her office, but through sheer will. She had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 6 years, fought in the brutal Mars revolt, and led victories that no one else had thought possible. She placed both hands on the table and leaned forward, her eyes like steel. "They didn't declare war. They declared our extinction." No one spoke. The tension was a storm pressing against the glass walls of the room. Voss straightened, voice cold as a blade. "Let me be perfectly clear. They just signed their own death warrant." The words hit the council like a detonation. "You can't mean," stammered President Deline of the Eurasian Federation. "Oh, I mean exactly that." Voss's gaze swept across them. "The Solaris believe this will be swift. That we will kneel. They're wrong. They've misread humanity from the start." "And what do you suggest?" asked Prime Chancellor Ortega. "We don't have fleets to match theirs, not in numbers." Voss allowed herself the faintest of smiles. "Then we won't fight them with numbers. We'll fight them with everything else." A flicker of hollow maps shimmered above the table as Voss gestured. Orbital habitats, Martian shipyards, Titan refineries, all linked in red and blue lines. The tactical web of humanity's scattered strength. Europa Station has completed the railgun arrays. Titan has drone foundries ready. The lunar yards have stealth frigates built on designs they've never seen. And Earth itself. Her voice hardened. Earth is not defenseless. It never has been. The ministers exchanged uneasy looks. They had prepared defenses, yes, but for years they had hoped never to use them. "They expect us to panic," Voss continued. "They expect surrender. That expectation is our weapon. We will show them a war unlike anything they have ever faced. A war where every colony, every asteroid, every forgotten rock in our system becomes a blade in the dark." The council fell silent again, but this time it was a different silence. Less fear. More realization. Minister Adebayo leaned forward slowly. "Admiral, you believe we can win this?" Voss's answer was not hesitation, it was certainty. "I don't believe it." She locked eyes with them. "I know it." The council voted. Unanimous. Humanity would not submit. Within hours, Earth's Defense Command lit up with activity. Messages pulsed across the void, recall orders to every ship, mobilization signals to colonies, hidden arsenals unlocked from orbital vaults. Civilian freighters were converted into gunships, miners conscripted into militias. From the orbit of Mars, a fleet of sleek black corvettes, once experimental, now received combat orders. On Titan, engineers woke dormant factories, unleashing swarms of drone craft. Even the asteroid belts buzzed with activity, each rock a fortress waiting to be armed. Admiral Voss stood at the viewport of the Geneva Command Spire, watching as Earth's defense grid powered up for the first time in history. Lines of energy crawled across the night sky like veins of lightning. Her comm buzzed. "Admiral, we're receiving reports," said her aide, Commander Riley. "Public reaction is mixed. Some are terrified. Some are furious. And some are laughing." "Laughing?" "Yes, ma'am. There's a saying circulating the colonies: the Dominion declared war on Earth? Then the Dominion is already dead." Voss's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Good. Let them laugh. Fear makes us careful, but anger and laughter make us dangerous." She turned back to the stars. Somewhere out there, the Solaris fleet was already moving. "Overlord Travak believes this war will end humanity," she murmured. Her hands clenched behind her back. "He's wrong. This war will end him." And so it began. The Dominion had declared war on Earth. Humanity had declared vengeance. The galaxy had no idea what storm was about to be unleashed. The first Solaris strike fell on Europa. Through the frozen shell of Jupiter's moon, beneath its steel domes and oceans, 80,000 human colonists lived their fragile lives. The Solaris didn't come to conquer, they came to make an example. The Dominion fleet arrived in a spearhead of black crescents, their hulls shimmering with plasma fields. They didn't transmit a warning, didn't offer surrender terms. They opened fire the moment they emerged from fold space. "Contact! Enemy fleet translating in system!" The voice of Tactical Officer Mikhailov cracked through the comms inside Europa Defense Command. Sirens howled through the icy tunnels as civilians stampeded toward bunkers. "Admiral, we've got 12 Dominion war cruisers, flanked by frigates. They're targeting the dome sectors." At the command chair sat Commodore Anika Rourke, in charge of Europa's defenses. Her hair was pulled tight, her voice clipped but steady. She knew she was outnumbered, outgunned, and facing extinction. "Bring the rail platforms online," she snapped. "Target their lead cruiser." "They'll tear us apart, ma'am," muttered an ensign. "Then we make it cost them." Above Europa's crust, hidden railgun arrays unfolded from beneath the ice like steel claws. Massive cannons, magnetic rails glowing with lethal energy, charged for the first time since their secret construction. A Dominion warcruiser locked onto them, plasma lances carving through the frozen surface. One railgun melted under the barrage, but another fired. A spear of tungsten ripped through the void at hypervelocity. It struck the Solaris cruiser amidships, tearing through shields and hull plating alike. A chain of explosions gutted the vessel, splitting it in half. Cheers erupted in the command center. "Direct hit! The ship's breaking apart!" Rourke didn't smile. "Load the next round." But the Dominion was relentless. Fighters swarmed Europa's skies, blasting apart orbital defense satellites. Another dome collapsed under plasma fire, venting hundreds into space. Inside the command bunker, the walls shook. "Ma'am, casualties are mounting." "Keep firing." "Enemy frigates closing." "Keep firing." Another railgun thundered, sending a slug clean through a frigate, vaporizing it in a fireball. Drones launched from Titan, sleek, black, angular, darted into the fray, slashing into Dominion formations with suicide charges. Humanity's fury was raw, improvised, and desperate. But it was effective. On the bridge of the Dominion flagship, Overlord Travak watched with irritation as his tactical display flickered. "Explain this," he hissed. His translator rendered his voice a low growl. "Exalted One." His advisor trembled. "The humans fight with unorthodox methods. They ignore losses. They strike at vulnerable points, even when sacrificing entire wings. Primitive." Travak spat. "Their desperation is meaningless. They are insects crushing themselves against our boots." But then his second-in-command added, "Insects should not be able to destroy war cruisers, my lord." Travak's mandibles tightened. He had expected a massacre, not resistance. "Burn Europa," he snarled. "Let them see what defiance costs." Back on Europa, Rourke's command center was collapsing. Explosions shook the ice above. The Dominion had turned their weapons not on defenses but on the colony itself. "Admiral," her comm officer said, voice breaking, "we can't hold much longer." Rourke stood, her face set. "Then we don't hold. We strike back." She opened a final encrypted channel to Earth. "This is Commodore Rourke of Europa Station. We have inflicted heavy losses, but we are overrun. Tell Admiral Voss." Her voice steadied, iron behind it. "Tell her we will make them pay in blood." Her last order echoed through the bunker. "Fire everything we have." The remaining rail guns, drone swarms, and missile silos unleashed their final barrage. Tungsten slugs tore into Dominion cruisers. Drones detonated against shields, cracking them like glass. One last cruiser died screaming into Europa's ice. And then Europa burned. Plasma fire sighed across the domes, turning cities into vapor. The ice cracked and boiled, oceans venting into space. The colony was gone. But in its death throes, Europa had dragged 4 Dominion warships with it. Hours later, news reached Earth. The council chamber was heavy with grief. Images of destroyed domes, frozen corpses, and shattered cruisers filled the screens. Prime Chancellor Ortega buried his face in his hands. "Europa is gone. We lost 80,000 souls in a single day." Admiral Voss stood silent, her jaw clenched, eyes locked on the tactical report. She saw the number: 4 Dominion warships destroyed. She saw the desperate courage of Europa's final stand. Finally, she spoke. "They wanted an example," she said, her voice ablade. "They wanted to show the galaxy what happens when you defy them." She looked at the council, eyes burning. "Good. We'll show the galaxy what happens when you declare war on Earth." And far beyond, in hidden hangars and black sites scattered across the Sol system, humanity's answer was already being built. The Dominion thought Europa was a victory. But for Earth, it was the spark. The first strike had been theirs. The last strike would not be. Europa was ash. 80,000 souls burned into nothing, but their sacrifice had carried a message across the stars. Humans don't die quietly. The Council in ruins. When the survivors' transmissions reached Earth, the United Terran Council fell into chaos. "They vaporize Europa!" a senator shouted, slamming his fists against the hollow table. "They'll do the same to Mars, to Earth itself," cried another. "Do you fools understand? Resistance is impossible." The chamber filled with fear, despair, and defeat. Politicians shouted over one another until the room became a storm of panic. But at the far end of the chamber, Admiral Helena Voss stood with her arms behind her back. She had been silent for hours, her gaze fixed on the star maps flickering above the table. At last she spoke. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "They bled at Europa." The chamber went silent. "We lost 80,000 lives. But in their last moments, our people dragged 4 of the enemy's warships into hell. That is not weakness. That is proof." "Proof of what?" one senator spat. Voss leaned forward, her gray eyes burning. "Proof that the Dominion can bleed. The hidden fleet." While politicians argued deep in the asteroid belt, in secret shipyards carved into rock and shadow, Earth's true answer was awakening. The world thought humanity had only orbital frigates and defense satellites. The Dominion thought Earth was defenseless. They were wrong. For decades, Earth's militaries had built in silence, ships so unconventional they didn't even look like warships. Jagged hulls bristling with rail cannons. Black stealth cruisers coated in metamaterials. Missile frigates packed with warheads designed to burn through plasma shields like paper. And above all, the Ares. The Ares was humanity's first true dreadnought. Twice the length of a Dominion cruiser, it carried a spinal railgun capable of firing a tungsten rod at a fraction of light speed. One shot could split a battleship in two. The Dominion thought humans were prey. But prey had teeth. First blood. The order came from Voss herself. No diplomacy. No delay. The Dominion had declared war. Earth would answer. The first strike came at Kepler Outpost 7, a Dominion refueling station orbiting a gas giant. It was guarded by 2 war cruisers and a net of sensor drones. The Dominion never saw the humans coming. From the darkness of the asteroid belt, 3 stealth ships glided forward, their engines cold, their hulls invisible against the void. They crept closer, until they were almost inside the Dominion perimeter. Then they opened fire. Rail slugs, silent but unstoppable, tore through the station's shields. Missiles streaked from hidden launchers, each warhead shattering into a dozen fragments that stabbed into Dominion hulls like knives. One warcruiser detonated instantly, its plasma core igniting in a star-bright flare. The other tried to flee, but the humans weren't merciful. A tungsten slug punched clean through its reactor, splitting it apart. When the Dominion reinforcements arrived hours later, they found nothing left but debris, floating wreckage, and the shattered remains of their proud outpost. And in the center of the ruin, etched into a drifting panel of steel, they found a single, deliberate message scorched in plasma. You declared war. Earth accepts. Fire spreads. The attacks multiplied. On the Dominion frontier, convoys began vanishing. Freighters exploded without warning, their escorts ripped apart by invisible assailants. Orbital garrisons were found reduced to rubble, survivors whispering about human weapons that struck from nowhere. The Dominion had expected humanity to retreat, to beg, to plead. Instead, Earth had vanished into the void and returned as a phantom. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Other species, subjugated by the Dominion for centuries, heard the stories and trembled. Not with fear, but with something more dangerous, hope. The Overlord's rage. On the Dominion flagship, Overlord Travax seethed. His claws dug into the armrests of his throne as reports streamed in. Outpost 7 destroyed. Cruiser squadrons lost. Convoy attacks increasing. Explain! He roared. His generals shifted uneasily. Exalted One, the humans, they fight without pattern. They ignore losses. They strike where no rational commander would. They improvise. Improvisation is chaos. Travax snarled. Chaos cannot defeat order. But deep down, even he felt the first spark of doubt. Earth's resolve. Back on Earth, Admiral Voss stood before her fleet. You've seen what they did to Europa. You've seen what they'll do to us if we falter. But they miscalculated. They think we are prey. They think we will bow. She pointed toward the star map, where Dominion worlds glowed like fireflies. From this day, every system they touch will burn. Every ship they send will shatter. Every soldier they land will die on alien soil. Because they made one mistake. Her voice hardened, echoing across the chamber. They signed their own death warrant when they declared war on Earth. And so, as the Dominion prepared its massive fleets for total conquest, humanity struck like wildfire in the dark. Guerrilla warfare in the stars. Fleets that fought like ghosts. Weapons no one had seen before. The galaxy had never witnessed war like this. And it was only the beginning. The Dominion had underestimated. That mistake had already cost them outposts, convoys, and garrisons. Now they would make another. They thought throwing their full armadas would crush Earth's rebellion. The Armada. The largest fleet ever assembled in living memory slid from hyperspace on the edges of the Sol system. 200 Dominion warships. 30 carriers. Waves of drones and siege engines, each designed to reduce planets to ash. The sky above Neptune rippled with the mass of their arrival, like the void itself bent beneath their weight. Overlord Travax's command ship, a dreadnought the size of a city, hung at the center. His voice thundered across encrypted channels. Erase the vermin. Leave no human alive. The Dominion believed in overwhelming force. It had worked for centuries. Species after species had fallen before them, broken and enslaved. But humanity wasn't like the others. The trap. Admiral Helena Voss watched from the bridge of the Ares, humanity's first dreadnought, hidden in the asteroid belt with the rest of her fleet. Status? She asked. All squadrons in position. Stealth signatures holding. They don't see us, her XO replied. Voss nodded. The Dominion expected Earth to defend Sol directly, to huddle around the blue planet with shields raised. That's how every other prey species had fought, and lost. But Earth had studied war for millennia. They wouldn't play the enemy's game. Execute Plan Ignis, Voss ordered. The stars lit up. From the asteroid belt, mines detonated, releasing thousands of tungsten rods that streaked toward the Dominion fleet like silent meteors. They punched through shields and hulls, shredding cruisers before alarms even sounded. At the same time, Earth's stealth ships decloaked, firing rail slugs and torpedoes at point-blank range. The Dominion's invincible armada walked straight into a minefield built by human hands. Chaos in the void. On the Dominion dreadnought, alarms screamed. Shields collapsing on Sector 12. Carriers 3 and 5, destroyed. We're under attack from every angle. Travak's voice thundered over the chaos. Find them. Crush them. But there was no enemy line to meet, no fleet to smash head-on. Humans fought like shadows. A destroyer would appear, unleash a volley, and vanish behind an asteroid. A drone swarm would chase a target only to run straight into another hidden minefield. The Dominion were masters of order. Humans were masters of chaos. The counter-strike. No, Voss said. The Ares roared to life. Its colossal railgun charged, the barrel glowing white-hot as power surged through its coils. Target, Dominion flagship, the gunnery officer called. Fire! The tungsten slug screamed through the void, invisible and unstoppable. Seconds later, the Dominion dreadnought lurched as the projectile tore through its bow and out the other side, splitting decks, rupturing reactors. On Travak's bridge, sparks rained from the ceiling. His throne trembled as systems died around him. He rose, roaring in rage. Find that ship! But by then the Ares was gone, sliding back into the asteroid belt's cover. The human edge. Hours dragged into a day of slaughter. Dominion numbers meant nothing. Their formations broke apart as human tactics shattered their rhythm. A single human frigate sacrificed itself to ram a carrier, detonating its missile bay in a blaze that consumed half a squadron. A stealth corvette slashed through enemy lines, slicing comm relays and leaving the Dominion fleet blind. Civilian freighters, armed in secret with jury-rigged weapons, joined the fight, proving that every human ship was a potential warship. Everywhere the Dominion looked, humans struck. And every strike carried a message. We are not prey. Fear spreads. Across the galaxy, hidden observers watched. Slaves and subjugated peoples tuned their forbidden receivers to catch fragments of the battle. They saw a truth no one had dared imagine. The Dominion could lose. Whispers became rumors. Rumors became fire. Entire species, broken for centuries, began to dream of rebellion. The Overlord's realization. When the last Dominion cruiser fled Sol, only a quarter of the armada remained. Ships burned. Carriers drifted. The proudest fleet in the galaxy had been butchered by a species the Dominion had dismissed as insects. Overlord Travak stood in the wreckage of his bridge, staring into the void. They fight like no other, he muttered. For the first time in centuries, the Overlord felt something alien, something he had inflicted on countless others but never tasted himself. Fear. Earth's declaration. As the survivors limped away, Admiral Voss opened a channel. Not just to the Dominion, but to every listening ear in the galaxy. This is Earth. You thought you could erase us. You thought we would kneel. You thought wrong. Her voice was calm, resolute, deadly. We do not fear you. We do not forgive you. And we do not forget. You declared war on Earth. She paused, letting the words burn across the stars. And signed your own death warrant. The Sol system was no longer just Earth's home. It was a fortress. And from that fortress, humanity was ready to strike back. The aftermath of Sol. The Dominion retreat had stunned the galaxy. Entire fleets shattered. Outposts lost. The invincible Armada turned to wreckage drifting in human space. But Earth didn't celebrate. The cost of Europa still hung heavy in their hearts. The names of the 80,000 dead were carved into monuments across every colony. Admiral Helena Voss stood before one such monument, her reflection ghosted across the obsidian wall etched with names. She pressed her hand against the stone. "You didn't die in vain," she whispered. "The galaxy will know your sacrifice. And the Dominion will pay for every single life." She turned and walked back to the War Council. The fight wasn't finished. It had only begun. The offensive. For centuries, the Dominion had been the predator. Now the predator had prey of its own. Human fleets moved with surgical precision. They didn't waste strength on endless sieges. Instead, they cut the arteries of the Dominion. Strike groups slipped into hyperspace lanes, annihilating convoys and starving entire sectors. Special forces units, trained on Earth's brutal battlefields, landed on Dominion slave worlds and armed the oppressed. Resistance cells sprang to life in a dozen systems. Guerrilla fighters painted human insignias on walls and ships alike, spreading the message: the galaxy is no longer yours. The Dominion's vast empire began to splinter. The spark of rebellion. On the world of HFY, where the Dominion had ruled for 500 years, slaves once bowed at the sight of their masters. But after humans arrived, smuggling weapons, teaching tactics, the slaves rose up. The revolt was merciless. Dominion garrisons were hunted through the streets. Their banners burned in the city squares. Above HFY, when Dominion reinforcements arrived, they were met not just by humans, but by the Christians themselves, piloting captured ships, fighting with human guidance. The impossible had become reality. Species once broken were now breaking free. The Overlord's desperation. On his throne world, Overlord Travak raged. Billions of slaves revolt. My fleets burn. My outposts vanish. This is impossible. His generals knelt, trembling. The humans have done what no other could. They've made the galaxy believe you can be beaten. Silence! Travak bellowed. His claws tore into the throne's arms. They are insects. I will crush them myself. But even as he spoke, he knew the truth gnawed at him. The humans had turned the galaxy against him. He could not fight them all. The final blow. The Dominion's capital system was a fortress. Planetary shields. Dozens of shipyards. Armadas at anchor. For centuries, no one had dared challenge it. But the humans did. The Ares, leading a coalition of human warships and alien rebels, emerged from hyperspace at the system's edge. The Dominion fleet surged forward to meet them, tens of thousands of guns aimed at humanity's heart. Admiral Voss's voice echoed across the comms. Today, we finish this. Not for revenge. Not for conquest. But so no one will ever again kneel to tyrants like these. The order was given. Railguns thundered. Missiles streaked. Alien allies, once slaves, joined the charge with war cries that had been silent for centuries. The sky became fire. The Dominion fought with desperation, but they faced something they had never known before, a united galaxy with humanity at its spearhead. The Overlord falls. On the Dominion capital world, Travak watched his fleets crumble. Explosions lit the sky like dying stars. His empire collapsed before his eyes. And then, through the smoke, a transmission came. The face of Admiral Helena Voss. Calm. Cold. You wanted war. You wanted our extinction. Instead, you forged something greater. A galaxy that will never kneel to you again. Her eyes hardened. You signed your own death warrant. Moments later, the Ares' railgun fired. A tungsten slug the size of a shuttle tore through the Overlord's palace. The throne of the Dominion shattered into dust. The Empire was dead. Epilogue: A New Dawn. Months later, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Where the Dominion's banners once flew, free peoples raised their own. Trade lanes reopened. Worlds began to rebuild. At the heart of it all stood Earth, not conqueror, not overlord, but liberator. Human soldiers didn't enslave, they left weapons and training behind. Human ships didn't occupy, they moved on to the next fight, ensuring no tyrant could rise again. Admiral Helena Voss looked out at the stars from her flagship. They thought we were prey, she murmured. Her XO smiled faintly. Now the galaxy knows better. And so humanity, once dismissed as fragile and weak, became the symbol of defiance, the torchbearers of freedom. The Dominion had declared war on Earth. And in doing so, they had signed their own death warrant.